FM.
Good Monday morning, Jonesboro. This is meteorologist Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. It'll be partly to mostly sunny today. High temperatures about 40 to 45. Northwest wind 10 to 15. Mostly clear overnight, about 30 to 35. A nice sunny day in the low 50s for Tuesday. And Wednesday mostly sunny, about 53 to 59. There is a chance of a few showers Thursday into Friday. Highs in the 50s, partly to mostly cloudy. Jonesboro, that's your KLEK 102.5 FM weather.
From Feature Story News in London, I'm Ollie Barrett. 2 weeks of climate talks are underway in Madrid with a warning from the UN Secretary-General the point of no return is fast approaching. US President Donald Trump arrives in London later for 2 days of meetings with NATO leaders. 19 people have been killed in a bus crash in the Far East region of Russia. And Germany's coalition government is on shaky ground after its junior partner party elected leaders who say they are prepared to walk away from the alliance.
It's 9:01.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for Community Conversations, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place, while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters or sponsors.
Good morning, everyone, and happy Monday to you. I hope that everyone had a great holiday weekend. Now it's time to get back on the grind. You're tuned in to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guest today, as always on First Mondays, are members of the NAACP, the Craighead County Division Chapter Branch. I'm so sorry.
Okay. Branch or unit is fine.
Okay. All right. We have Ms. Lisa Melter and Ms. Emma Agnew with us. So we're just going to dive right into whatever's been happening and not waste any time.
I want to say first that I hope everyone had a blessed Thanksgiving, a great weekend, and I hope you didn't get trampled in the Black Friday shopping. Did either one of you ladies go Black Friday shopping?
No. I work retail, so I decided never to do it again.
Yeah, I don't, like some folks say it's a tradition. They always go, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, really? But my tradition is to never go.
No, that's my tradition.
I don't think I've ever been to a Black Friday sale. I just wait until all of that's out of the way. I actually do most of my shopping online these days.
I do too.
Yeah.
Which I feel kind of guilty about.
I don't.
Not really. No.
Yeah.
No.
I just want to support local, but it's hard. Yeah.
I do have a couple of local places I'll go pick up little gifts, but they're not in the mall. So,
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, so happy holidays to everybody, and I guess we know what's on everyone's mind is certainly what's on ours.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so Lisa, I'll let you start. You just
I think it is
on
true.
The news?
I did not.
Yeah.
I do not watch any of that. I hear it. I don't watch KLEK when replays. I don't watch any of it. Because if I did, I don't really know that I would be brave enough to speak up, because I would be so obsessed about how I look doing it or whatever. I would get all mired into that.
They were talking about the story, and they just showed your picture.
Gotcha.
And Michael Gray's talking at the podium while they were doing the story. So your voice wasn't there, and they didn't really say anything about what you said.
That's probably good.
Yeah.
It was probably just a face that looked enraged or something.
Yeah.
Probably so.
Yeah.
And I think we all know that my plan this evening is to apologize to the council for having painted with too broad a brush in terms of assuming that all of them have been a part of this process behind the scenes, and that the process has been orchestrated behind the scenes. I have no evidence of that, and it's important that I own the fact that I have made assumptions that, from my optics, having been involved in the process, and my intuition feel true, but I do not know that to be true, and so I should not have said it. And so I will be apologizing tonight to the council for that. And then I will also probably be talking a little bit about the role that being white in America has played in my shaping of what I believe to be true and believe to be necessary in terms of righting some wrongs. So that's
okay. That's interesting because I plan to speak tonight as myself, not representing the NAACP, and I plan to talk about what it's like being black in America.
perfect.
As a child of the early 50s, what it was kind of like growing up, and why this means so much to African Americans. So that's.
I look forward to that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. Your Better Region 8 was as good as I've heard ever.
Oh, thank you,
It was
Lisa.
so good.
Thank you.
It was so good.
Have you seen it, Q?
No, I haven't. I'm gonna.
It's on Facebook.
It's on your website.
Yeah, it's on the
It's on KLEK's website.
And also on the NAACP and my Facebook page. So I do encourage
So
you all,
good.
listeners, if you have not, to please
It's
read
powerful.
it. It's also in the Jonesboro Sun. They called and asked if they could have a copy to run.
Okay.
And so it's also in Sunday's Jonesboro Sun letter to the editor's section. So, but anyway, so yeah, I plan to talk about that. So that's good. I was thinking about it last night. I was kind of up a little late. I couldn't go to sleep hardly. And I'm really kind of excited that this first reading is finally happening for the street renaming. But I meant every word I said in that editorial, that if they vote no, that's okay. We coming right back.
That's right.
Just get ready, because we coming back. And
I think if we come back, there'll be a better street. I feel like we really did, in good faith, as a part of that Unity Coalition.
Right.
We made we wanted to negotiate in good faith.
Right, we really did.
We wanted to come to agreement.
We really did.
We wanted the majority rule to prevail. And so, we accepted a street that for none of us was ideal.
Right.
So it will be better for the legacy of Dr. King if that ends up being the case. And, we're not going anywhere.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So, yeah. And, and for those who are already saying that if it passes, they're going to repeal it, I say bring it on. We're ready for that, too.
Bring it.
But we're just not going to be deterred. So if it's repealed, fine. We still coming back. You're just going to have to repeal another one.
That's right.
But anyway.
That's right.
We have some comments from Facebook. I want to say good morning to Lagenza Kill and Shanquetta Cunningham, who both have comments. So Ms. Shanquetta says, thank you to both of you ladies for your persistence and grace in this process. And Mrs. Emma, you rock.
Thank
No
you,
kidding.
baby girl.
Right. And our very own Lagenza Kill says, it's interesting both of you ladies bring this up since Dr. King's dream was for blacks and whites to sit at the table of brotherhood or sisterhood, to see both of you working together to honor him regardless of the outcome. It's the embodiment of his dream.
Yeah.
And good morning to Yesenia.
Yeah. I call Lisa my partner in crime. But I think
I've learned so much from Emma.
We got so excited and are so interested in. I think it might do well, Quabila, if we go back and give a little history for anyone listening who may not know what we're talking about, because we just jumped right in.
Right. We did. Actually, we did. That's right. So because we just assume everybody in town has been as consumed with it as we have. But maybe not.
Yeah, and also the process is not very simple. So for some, even who have been listening and following and attending the meetings, it still might be a little confusing, the process.
Absolutely.
So I think I know it, so I'm going to try to explain what has happened and what will be happening tonight. So I think most people know that the proposal that the Unity Coalition came up with and submitted was totally changed by the Public Works Committee. It had to go to the Public Works Committee first to be approved to get on the full council agenda. And that's with any proposal. It has to go through committee first, and then if committee passes it, it gets to the full council. If committee doesn't pass it, it dies right there. And so that's what's happened in the past twice. It died in committee. It did not make it to the full council.
Is it typical that they would typically either pass it out on its merits as it is, or kill it right there? That have you ever seen them tweak it before the way they did this, or go with some?
I'm not that familiar with what they've done in committee before, because to be quite honest, I've never been as interested in anything before.
Absolutely.
But when it got to the Public Works Committee, they saw fit to change it, because we had recommended that it be Commerce Drive from I-555 be named in honor of Dr. King, including Highway 49. And when the new arterial is built, that it be added on to that. Now, our understanding is that new arterial, when it's built, is going to be pretty much like Stadium. That's the growth area. That's where they're directing the growth in Jonesboro. So that was our proposal. As Lisa said, after deliberation and swallowing our pride and our egos and really trying to work with the people in the room who were against Johnson and some of the other street names that came up. And so the committee changed it to making Commerce Drive a memorial highway. And then once the new arterial is, they would name the little piece of 49, which is very short. They would go ahead and name it MLK. And when the new arterial is built, it would be named in honor of Dr. King. And the Commerce Drive would just be a memorial highway. So what that means is, as a memorial highway, none of the street addresses would have to change. That really seems to be the big deal, is that people will have to change their addresses. So if you keep it Commerce Drive and make it a memorial highway, none of the street addresses will have to be changed. And what they will do is they'll put a little sign at I-555 and Commerce Drive that says MLK Memorial Highway. From what I understand, and I could be wrong, it's about the size of a street sign that just go up there with the street sign that says MLK Memorial Highway. And it will be placed at the beginning and one at the end. And in my mind, that's no more than another overpass. So I was just so taken aback and so upset, it's a gentle word, when I heard they had done that, and that's what was submitted to council. That's when we decided at the executive committee that if we couldn't have the Commerce Drive named in honor of Dr. King, we didn't want it. Just take it off the table for now, and we'll come back later. Right. Because no one knows when that arterial is going to be built.
That's right.
Now, it's scheduled to start in 2021.
Right.
But nobody knows that. That's a state project, so nobody knows when it's going to be built.
Right.
And so
and if we were willing to settle for a memorial street, well, then we could do that on Johnson.
Right.
That would actually be preferable. We can make Johnson all memorial if we were just going to settle for memorial, but we were very clear we didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
And so what I'm a process person, and what was really difficult for me to swallow is that majority vote in the Unity Coalition put something forward, and the Public Works decides to change it to the minority position.
Right.
So it was a 7-3 vote, and they went with the 3.
Yeah.
That, to me, is not the way government should work. And that's why I had such difficulty and a little bit of anger at the council.
And you know what?
And the mayor.
Think instead of changing it, why didn't they just vote it down? I would have
Right.
preferred that they just vote it down and
Right.
say, no, this is not going to council.
Right.
Then we would have come up with something else. But for them to change it, I thought was disrespectful and insulting and
To our
every other
process.
word you could think of.
To our process.
Yeah, so anyway, it went to full council with the Memorial Drive, and the council, David McLean, in the midst of the first or second reading, I don't remember which, but David McLean made a motion to change it back to the original proposal that the Unity Coalition submitted. And they actually voted on it, and it did not pass. But they advised him to bring it up at the next council meeting because there were a couple people absent, and anyway, so it came up at the next council meeting, and he made the motion, but they said they couldn't vote on it, and so they voted on it last time, but they were saying this time, because he was asking if this can be one of the readings, the ordinance readings, and they said no, because they wanted everybody to understand. So anyway, they voted on the last meeting. They did vote to change it back to the original, and it was 7-5.
Yes.
And that's exactly what it had to be, so there was no room to spare. And so tonight will be the first reading, first of 3 readings. They will have to do 3 readings, and tonight will be the first of 3 readings on the ordinance to rename Commerce Drive Dr. MLK Drive with the new arterial added when it's built.
I have several questions, and mine might have to wait till after the break because we've only got like 4 minutes
We're talking
left.
a long time.
This one, but I will start with this. Going all the way back to the beginning of your statements, you mentioned about you all looking through the lens of your own race or ethnicity, and wanting to have a conversation about what that means in society, and what you've experienced and how you navigated life through your experience. And so I want to ask this, and I know this is probably a big resounding yes, but because of what has happened with City Council and the discussions around the MLK Street naming, is it now time for bigger discussions to be had on a more consistent basis? Has this opened the door for people to say, okay, aside from the MLK Street naming, as a community, we need to have these conversations because we've lived in this little fishbowl bubble for so long and navigated and operate around each other instead of actually operating with each other.
Which would be such a great thing. Resounding yes. And in fact, the Unity Coalition said that. I mean, almost to a person. There were probably a couple of them who didn't necessarily want to continue, but many of us on the Unity Coalition said we wish this would just stay in place and we can continue to have these conversations because I think we learned a great deal from each other. So yeah, resounding yes.
I think yes too. I think it needs to be more broader, than just the few people on the Unity Coalition.
Definitely.
That it needs to be open up to a huge amount of folk to start having these discussions and to even bring them to the, bring them out and present discussions to the whole community, forums or, whatever. But I said then and I say now, I could not do that on a regular basis because that Unity Coalition was so taxing and upsetting. So it's time for younger folk to do that. But I totally agree that. But until we discuss the fact that there is an issue, a problem, a challenge, we're not going to ever solve it. So, but yeah.
Okay. As we get ready for break, I want to read Mrs. 2 more comments to read, and I'll save my other question for after the break. Okay, so Mrs. Shaquetta says, change to this proposal has nothing to do with the spirit of unity, but an insulting nod to current power, backward traditions, and stagnant culture. I really hope people pay attention and remember, in big bold letters, this come next year at election time.
Right.
And
Amen,
that's all
Chantel.
for now.
Yeah.
She is so amazing.
All right.
We want to see her run for office.
Yeah.
Come on, girl.
All right. So Legacy says, to Shanquetta's vigilance is key. Vigilance, is key. The opposition is already upset with the council over this in Team Jonesboro, and they will likely field candidates to run for the council more in line with their values. If progressives wish to enact change, they must approach the situation with the same tenacity. All right. And then Ms. Yesenia says, Jonesboro has a history of racism. Enslaved people were brought here. The first black people were property. They had 4 black men lynched with no repercussions to the white men that bragged publicly about it. People say this isn't about race, but but it absolutely is. We have streets named after known racists, the Cover House, and I might have to say the rest of this. I'm going to say the rest of that because we're getting ready for a break. So
Yesenia is on the roll. Good morning, Yesenia. Love you.
She is the best.
I'll read the rest of the comments after we come back from break. So please hope that everyone stays tuned. This is a very great discussion that it's long overdue. So again, you tune into Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. My special guests are from the NAACP Craighead County Branch, Ms. Lisa and Mrs. Emma. So please stay tuned. We'll be right back after these announcements.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
Are your kids the center of your universe? I'm Mark Merrill with today's Family Minute. Once when my wife and I were about to go out, my daughter said, "But Mom, I want you to stay here." My wife replied, "No, honey, I'm going on a date with Daddy." Wow, I felt like $1 million. My wife was protecting her time with me and making us a priority. Our kids need to know how much we love them, that they are a priority to us as well, but that they are not the center of the universe. If they think they are, 3 things will happen. First, your marriage will suffer. Putting all your time and energy into your kids leaves only leftovers for your spouse. For more reasons not to let your kids think they are the center of the universe, visit my blog at markmerrill.com. Remember, your family first.
Made possible by the Kappa Nu Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, a non-profit organization committed to service to all mankind. Kappa Nu Omega Alpha Kappa Alpha on Facebook.
Family Minute is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a non-profit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and JonesboroKappaLeague@gmail.com.
Hey, this is Reba McIntyre, and I wanted to talk to you about a serious problem right here in our own backyard. Did you know that there are nearly 16 million kids struggling with hunger in America? That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food, engaging their communities in solving hunger and giving hope to hungry kids and their families. But they need your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
On Monday, December 2nd, 2019, at 5:30 p.m., there will be a special called meeting of the Jonesboro City Council at City Hall Chambers, 300 South Church Street in Jonesboro. During this meeting, the City Council will place on the first reading the updated ordinance, which would rename all of Commerce Drive Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. There is a possibility that the City Council could suspend the second and third reading of this ordinance. If this ordinance were to pass, all of Commerce Drive would then be renamed Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. This would include current portions of Commerce Drive and all future portions to be built, including the Eastern Arterial. If you would like to speak out in support or in opposition of this ordinance, you must attend the special called City Council meeting Monday, December 2nd, 2019 at 5:30 p.m. Due to anticipated large crowds, early arrival is suggested. Again, on Monday, December 2nd, 2019 at 5:30 p.m., there will be a special called City Council meeting at 5:30 p.m. at the Municipal Center, 300 South Church Street in Jonesboro. The ordinance to rename all of Commerce Drive to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard will be placed on first reading.
KLEK thanks CJ Pepper and the staff of Life Strategies Counseling Incorporated for helping people through hard times in life such as depression, family issues, stress, abuse, and more. They offer counseling and therapy for all ages, individuals, families, and groups. They are located at 1217 Stone Street. Phone number 1-866-972-1268 or online at lscihelp.com.
Crowley's Ridge Development Council provides information, resources, presentations, workshops, and trainings for schools, community groups, churches, law enforcement, and others related to substance abuse prevention, anti-bullying, mental health, and suicide prevention. More information is available at crdcnea.org.
KLEK 102.5 FM is giving you more praise. That's right, KLEK brings to you All Gospel Wednesdays. Every Wednesday, enjoy all of your favorite gospel hits and get your praise on all day long. Plus, the return of the KLEK Praise Break. Lift up your hands, rejoice, and praise Him all day, all Wednesday, every Wednesday on KLEK 102.5 FM.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest from the NAACP Craighead County Branch, Ms. Lisa and Mrs. Emma. So I'm going to get back to reading our Facebook comments before we jump back into our discussion. Okay. Left off with Miss Yesenia's comment. She says, we have streets named after known races. The cover houses had position in power in the Ku Klux Klan. One of the wives used to make the costumes for the original Klan. U.S. Senator Carraway voted against anti-lynching legislation. I feel like the voice of people of color aren't as important to the portion of our council whether they recognize their biases or not. Is there a single street named in Jonesboro that is known to be named after a person of color? And just shout out to Mrs. Emma, Agnew, Lisa Milton, Jackson Strong, intelligent women that inspire me. Right.
She inspires me.
Yeah, she inspires me too. But girl, no, ain't no street named after no black person.
And then good morning to Mrs. Rebecca Laura Evans, Christopher Todd, and Maddie Warren. All right, so we're going to get back into our discussion. And the follow-up question I had for my previous one was, you all were talking about the placements, the suggested placement of the street sign, name, whatever the case. And in the very beginning, you all were fighting for Johnson. Do you feel that the placement of the street matters just as much, if not more, than just the street name itself?
Yes.
If the street name was centrally located within a certain area of the town, it would be more visible to the people passing by, therefore possibly inciting hope and inspiring everyone to increase the quality of life in their best way possible.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and that's why this was never my, you know, my after Johnson was really Southwest Drive, because I just think it comes right into the heart of the city. But yeah, I absolutely think.
Yeah, totally. That's why we went with Johnson in the first place. And,
right.
And, you know, I'll have to confess that we didn't really fight for Johnson because, as we said at the onset, we were really trying to cooperate and unify the community.
And when you start a meeting where people are telling you from the start they are not going to support any street renaming, I mean, that's what you're there to do, is work out a proposal around a street renaming. And so I guess we all felt like we were really going to have to give in order to come up with a solution, but we want to come up with a solution.
Yeah. And you know, and I was thinking about this last night too while I was laying there, not able to go to sleep. This, pretty much this whole thing has been orchestrated by one man. The Johnson thing, and now the Commerce Drive issue, it's been orchestrated by one man. There's basically one man that's causing all of this confusion. And if you've been following it all, you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Well, even in my response to that, even though, yes, it's been one man that has definitely been the face of the opposition, he has a lot of backing behind him. It kind of goes into my comment, which I posted before I got here to the studio, that vigilance and organization is key. I think, just from my observations from covering all of this process through the station, is I really think that the people who are opposed to this did not think that the NAACP, as well as supporters of the MLK proposal, would still fight, that they would just lay down in the past, like they've done in the past, and this would go away. But obviously it's being shown that this is an issue that is not going to go away. And again, that same tenacity has to continue to be exhibited, not just through the vote, whether it goes to 3 readings, whether there's a recall election, but even beyond that. It's going to take a representation of a cross-section of the community to make this happen. Because one thing, if you do notice, and again, like Lisa likes to talk about optics, and the optics that I observe just as a media person is that when you look at the opposition tends to be homogeneous in their makeup, whereas opposed to the supporters are much more diverse. So you have to draw upon that diverse coalition of people and to get that support. And again, it kind of goes back to the legacy of Dr. King. Dr. King wanted to bring communities together, so it's important that those communities come together to do this. So, of course, I want to ask this question as I transition. One of the arguments, and this is actually going back to something that was written in the letter that Alderman Long had presented to you, but opponents like to say, well, this is not what Dr. King would want. He would not want this, all this division, all this fighting over him. They like to say, if he were here, he would say, don't. If it's going to be this much trouble, don't name a street after me.
No.
What is your response to that?
My response. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
My response is, he talked about it, because I've thought about that a lot. And my response is, Dr. King was not in favor of violence, but Dr. King definitely did not want to see white people do violence to the African American community, and he didn't want to see the African American community be silent in the face of injustice. So speaking up and speaking out, and in a nonviolent way pursuing what you know to be fair and just, is exactly everything he stood for. And we are doing that. We are in no way engaging in even my emotional is not, we are impassioned supporters of what we know to be a good thing for this community, a message to the community and the broader world that Jonesboro, Arkansas stands for the values of this Nobel Peace Prize winning crusader for civil rights the world over. And Jonesboro needs to send that message, and that's what we're standing up for. And Dr. King was all about that. That's exactly what he was about.
And I totally agree. And before you came in, I was telling Lisa at the break that I'm going to address that at council tonight.
Well, I got another point for you. I want y'all to see what your response to. Also, in Mr. Long's response, he noted that he felt that a street doesn't really honor Dr. King because you just drive down the street and that's it. You may see a sign, but what does the sign represent? But he felt that the trail was a better representation because you would actually stop and read the educational markers. What is your response to that?
Well, my response to that is a street is definitely important. It has, and we were talking about this also, that unless you have been a oppressed, marginalized black person, you just don't understand what a street means. You know that street is there. When you turn on it and drive down it, you know that street is there. Thousands of cars will drive down that street a day once that arterial is built. If you do a trail, how many people are going to see that trail? You have to make an effort to get out and walk that trail. How many people are going to do that? And they are talking about, the schools and bringing the school children, which is a good thing. We don't have a problem with the trail. We just don't see it as a viable substitute for actually a street. A street just gets more exposure, and it has been shown that when you name a street, the city progresses. When you name a street in honor of Dr. King, for those who were afraid that it would hinder growth, it has been proven that it improves growth when the street is named Dr. King, and it's a good representation. It's a major representation in my book. A trail is a minor representation.
It is.
And I don't see why we can't have both.
I feel strongly we should do both. Now,
that was the original.
Well, I believe the trail did pass pretty much with little fanfares.
Right.
Of course,
now, of course, it's a minor
now here's
thing.
the deal. There's no money after that trail.
I was just about to say that. Now, of course, the issue of when it's actually going to be constructed, because I think that was one of the things that was going to be included in the Team Jonesboro proposal. But since that was voted down, then it's kind of up in the air when the trail would actually be constructed. Q, did you have something? I know I kind of just took over, but we don't kind of feel strongly about this.
I want to say something because I would not have done it, but because you are referencing Alderman Long, I want to reference him. He actually sent me a very thoughtful response to the apology that I sent, the apology letter I sent to the council.
Okay.
A very thoughtful response, and I just want to acknowledge that. I think that Alderman Long goes the extra distance with the community and tries to tell people what they're thinking. He and I do not agree, but I do want to commend him for that.
And absolutely, and we definitely respect Councilman Long for taking the time to respond to those, even though there are differences of opinions.
Exactly.
There's not a meeting of the minds, but at least there is dialogue, and dialogue is important. Now, Ms. Agnew just mentioned a couple moments ago, saying that if you are not representative of a marginalized population, you would not understand the significance of it. Typically, when us as African Americans, when we talk about our plight and being marginalized, people in the white community are quick to dismiss and say, well, that was back in the days. We're not suffering. Y'all not suffering now. What about us? We gotta, we're struggling to pay our own bills. I don't see what y'all talk about when y'all talk about white privilege. Lisa, when you hear that, what comes to mind?
What I know is that we move through the world. There's a new video out, a new documentary out on Netflix. Chelsea Handler, comedian, she's hilarious, but she wouldn't be a lot of people's cup of tea. But she's tried to do a very thoughtful piece on white privilege. And the analogy she uses is if you tried to explain to a fish what water is, they would have no ability to understand because they've been so steeped in it their entire lives. We have walked through the world with white privilege because the opposite of oppression is to have something that the oppressed do not have. And we have always had that. We have never been stopped for being white. We have never had our vehicles stopped. We've never had a stop and frisk because we are a white person. we have had, I mean, people say, well, now that doesn't even exist anymore because they have affirmative action. Affirmative action was to cure so many ills that had been perpetrated on people of color, and we still did not cure them. I mean, to say that we have is just to put on blinders. And so, you know, the place that I go, and I guess the place that I'm always amazed that my white brethren do not go, considering the fact that I live in probably the most Christian place on the planet, it seems. They never go to the place that I believe Jesus went to, which is to put up myself in the position of my neighbor, to try to appreciate the plight of the person that I am not. And in that, I take away that I need to feel what they have felt. And I did that. It started with me in high school, but it really, eyes on the prize, just brought it all home to me. I could not believe what African Americans had been through in this country. And I do not, and people say, well, they're not there now. Well, yes, they are. They're still, culturally, we still have a systemic racism that undergirds everything. And until we own it, till we name it, till we own it, until we seek to correct it by sharing power, it will never go away. And so that's what I'm about. And that you know, it does stem from white guilt, but I will tell it on some level, although it's transcended that, it started out as white guilt. What I say about white guilt is guilt serves its purpose in this world. It serves its purpose in my faith. It serves its purpose in my life. It keeps me from doing the wrong thing, and it rights me when I know that I am thinking in a way that is not, you know, that is not conducive to what is good in the world. And I am very pleased that I have it. And I'm sad for people who don't get it, because I feel like they are walking around with such an armor against inclusivity and seeing the richness that we can have when we all come together.
Absolutely. And Lisa, we could probably do a whole show just on that topic. But I do want to bring y'all first Facebook shouts, and we're going to bring it back to Dr. King. Shout out to Christopher Todd and our very own Reverend Dr. Greg Oates. Appreciate each and every one of you for checking in on our live. FAQ, did you have something? Okay.
She did. She's been very patient.
Well, I'm sorry. I just feel strongly about this. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that I sat in on today's episode.
Thank you.
I want to go back, and this is not to pick on any person, but for those that have the rebuttal of this is not what Dr. King would want. Well, since they feel, whoever feels they know or what Dr. King would want, why can't we now in 2019 going forward start implementing those ideals and practices? Why can't we, you know, you mentioned about how people walk through life with blinders and privilege. Okay, if you feel that you know what Dr. King would want, why not start operating in that?
Yeah, why are we having to come hat in hand requesting? Why weren't you, if you know what Dr. King would want, why aren't you putting it forward to make our community a better place?
Yeah, basically begging.
So,
so it's not just requesting.
Right.
But I do want to go back to tonight. I do want to say one thing, that it is possible that they could waive the second and third reading and vote tonight, although we don't see that happening, but it is possible. And to encourage everyone listening to show up, to come tonight. It is so important that people show up for the meeting. And we were talking last Saturday, a couple of Saturdays ago, a group of us. Up till now, the face of this has pretty much been white people. We need some black folk to come and actually speak. I mean, if you don't want to speak, if you don't feel comfortable speaking, we understand. Just show up and be there in the audience. But if you have something you want to say, and if you're comfortable, and if you are a person of color, please come and show the council that there are concerned African Americans in this community who would like to see this pass. And so again, we ask you to come. The meeting has been changed. It is tonight instead of tomorrow. And so we just, want to make sure that you come, get there no later than 5. Some say earlier.
I would say earlier because I know that there is a group planning to show up in opposition.
And I would
I believe there's now 2 groups.
And I would like to say, when we were talking about this individual and kind of being the face of the opposition, Leganzi stated that he had strong support. I don't think he has strong support. I'm not saying he doesn't have any support, but I'm just naive enough to think that there are more people for this than against it. And I just don't think he has the support that he claims he has. And there may be a couple of groups showing up tonight.
Well, I do want to respond to that. I think that comes from a place of, and you could be right, he may not have the level of support that he thinks he has, but he feels, I think he and others like him feel emboldened because of a lack of support for people pushing it. They, again, kind of going back to my earlier comment, I think some people think, well, if we just put forth just the bare minimum of resistance, they will lay down. So again, if there's overwhelming support from those that support, then the numbers of support for the opposition won't matter. But I think it comes from, and also just
in other words, we've got to show up.
And of course,
we've got to show up.
And also, just past history, people from the opposition, they share similar views when it comes to similar issues. Some of these same people who were against this were against Team Jonesboro. They were against the property code, and they have a track record of defeating initiatives that would have been advocated to progress the community. So, they are running on their track record. And again, unless there's an overwhelming counter to that to block that, it's going to continue.
They are well organized, and what I think many in this community have become, myself included, is complacent at times. Just if it doesn't affect me directly, then I'm not going to get too jazzed up about it. I'm not going to get that involved in it.
And unfortunately for black folk, it can affect us directly, and we won't get engaged and involved in it. And that's something that has to change.
It has to.
And of course, as we always say, be the change in which you seek.
That's right.
All votes matter. No vote, no voice. Also, I'm going to extend that. If you don't show up, then you also have no voice. Early arrival is suggested. I'm going to be there early myself. We will cover it live on our Facebook page. But you need to be there. Don't watch it on our feed. Just be there. We'll be back with more. This is Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
You're listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM. We'll be right back.
We're back with Money Matters. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. Our Think Wealthy quote of the week comes from educator, author, and wealth expert Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, author of The Wealth Choice, Success Secrets of Black Millionaires.
The wealthy make money while the rest of us make excuses. If you knew who walks beside you on this journey called life, you would never doubt or fear again.
The truth is, it takes courage to get out of your comfort zone, challenge your beliefs, and defy the status quo that is the tyranny of your own mindset. The bottom line is that if you want different results, you have to make different choices. As I never tire of saying here on Money Matters, you can't change your money if you won't change your mind.
The greatest resource in the world is the passionate, committed mind. What have you been sent here to do?
Get more lessons of wealth from Dr. Kimbrough at DennisKimbrough.com. I'm Alfred Edmond Jr. for Money Matters, a product of American Urban Radio Networks.
Money Matters is made possible by the Jonesboro Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, a nonprofit organization focused on joy in our sisterhood, power in our voice, and service in our hearts. www.jonesboroalumnidst.org.
Money Matters is brought to you by the Guide Right Jonesboro Kappa League, a nonprofit organization that guides young men to a life of achievement. Kappa League Jonesboro on Facebook, Jonesboro_Kappa League on Instagram, and Jonesboro Kappa League at gmail.com.
Money Matters is brought to you by Bancorp South, offering checking, savings, loans, credit cards, and wealth management. www.bancorpsouth.com or 870-972-9800.
Jonesboro Coca-Cola is proud to support KLEK and its mission to serve Jonesboro and the surrounding area. From Jonesboro Coca-Cola, here's wishing all of KLEK listeners a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated was established on January 1st, 1977, originally serving Blytheville, Arkansas, and now serving Jonesboro, Blytheville, Osceola, Marion, and West Memphis, Arkansas. Today, the chapter continues to make an impact by focusing on Alpha's national community outreach initiatives such as My Brother's Keeper, A Voteless People is a Hopeless People, Go to High School, Go to College, Project Alpha, Boy Scouts, and the March of Dimes. The Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is committed to Alpha's mission of developing leaders, promoting brotherhood and academic excellence, while providing service and advocacy to the community. More information about the Mu Omicron Lambda chapter of Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated is available at MOL Alphas on Facebook or via email at molalphas@gmail.com.
KLEK 102.5 FM wants to be active in the community. If you or your organization is hosting a community service event, we would like to know about it and be a part of it. KLEK will promote your event on air, online, and on social media. KLEK personalities may also attend the event and provide music and or entertainment. Certain restrictions and availability may apply. If you or your organization would like to partner with KLEK to make the Jonesboro community a better place, call 870-277-1080 or email us at klek@klekfm.org. In order for a community announcement or church announcement to be aired on KLEK 102.5 FM, we ask that the announcement be sent at minimum 1 week in advance. Thank you for supporting KLEK 102.5 FM.
Major key alert! Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at GetSchooled.com. Brought to you by Get Schooled and the Ad Council.
KLEK 102.5 FM salutes small businesses. Small businesses promote local character and success, keeping money in the local economy, local jobs, entrepreneurship, community well-being, and so much more. Contact us today to learn more on how your small business could be featured on KLEK for as little as $25 per month.
It's me, your heart. High blood pressure is serious, and I can quit whenever I want. Just treat me better. After all, we're in this together.
For help getting your high blood pressure to a healthy range, text PRESSURE to 97779. A message from the American Heart Association and the Ad Council.
You're not wired to have a response to this sound. But when we introduce a new stimulus, save the food. We're helping to stop food waste. Save the food. For tips and recipes, visit savethefood.com. Brought to you by NRDC and the Ad Council.
And now back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM.
Welcome back to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM with my special guest from the NAACP Craighead County Branch, Mrs. Lisa Melton and Mrs. Emma Agnew. And also joining us is our very own station manager, Legacy Kell. So we're going to get back into our conversation. Then we also have a few announcements closer to the end. So, ladies, in this last segment, any final words you would like to share?
Well, I just want to reiterate how important it is that we actually start attending city council meetings. And I've been a little lax myself. I felt I'd gone to enough of them when I worked for the city, although I didn't go to every one then. But we really need to be involved with what's going on in the city, and particularly now with this Dr. King Street. I just encourage everyone to come, and if you have something to say, say it. And I know that may be hard for some people who aren't accustomed to doing that, but if you're uncomfortable, don't worry about it. There are plenty of other folk who will speak, but we just think there needs to be more black faces that actually stand up and speak. So we just encourage you to come out tonight and be a part of this process and see this process. And I do want to add real quick, I meant to say this earlier. One positive thing that's already come out of this is the level of involvement from people that wasn't there before. It's really kind of mobilized a small movement, and we don't want to lose that. So that's a good thing that's come out of that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I want to applaud Emma for that, because I think that's her leadership at the NAACP. It's really galvanizing, and the fact that she's not just at NAACP meetings, but she's really moved out into the community and is at a lot of other meetings and involved with a lot of other people to make that happen. So I really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, I just think, yes, come out and know that the most compelling thing anybody can really say is from their story. That's so if you have some deep conviction about why you want to see this happen in our community, if it's just because you've never seen anything in this community that celebrated this, African American experience or whatever it is, come out and share that with the council. They need to know that that this matters, and they need to understand why, because I think many of them do not yet understand why.
Yeah.
As you stated before, all of you, it's bigger than the street name.
It very much is. It very much is. It very much is.
Yeah.
Right. Lindsay?
I'll just end with this quote straight from Dr. King. Our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter.
Amen.
And with that, tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. KLK, we will have a one-day only special pledge drive. Yep, I know we're going to do it, y'all. But hey, we're non-commercial, we're non-profit. We have to raise money to keep the station going. But we're going to do something a little different this time. We're actually going to feature other local nonprofits. And each of these nonprofits, they're going to come and they're going to tell their own story and tell you, the listeners, why you should support them. And while each nonprofit is on the air, whatever money is raised, KLEK is going to donate half of that back to that nonprofit. So we are going to help others to help themselves. So be sure to tune in all day tomorrow for Giving Tuesday. And whether you donate to KLEK or donate to one of the other nonprofits around town, please support these organizations that help make a difference. Lisa, did you?
Well, I just wanted Emma to tell when the NAACP meeting is and how we still need members. We are always in need of.
Always looking for members. We will not have a December meeting. We will start meeting in January. We meet the third Monday of each month at
6 p.m.
6 o'clock at the E. Boone Watson Center.
All right. So please join the NAACP if you want to be a part of the change that's
$30 a year.
And that's very, very reasonable.
Right.
NAACP is one of the organizations in which you can give to. In fact, do we have y'all booked for a slot tomorrow? We got some openings.
So anyone else out there, you are part of a nonprofit, we do have some openings available. So please contact us today so that we can fit you in. And Miss Rebecca Laura Evans says, thank you both for your advocacy and leadership. We appreciate you so much.
Oh, we appreciate her.
Yeah,
she's a rock star.
Yeah, talk about advocacy.
No
and
kidding.
Yeah.
Shout out to Moms Demand Action.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
Do we have them booked on tomorrow?
No.
Rebecca, you need to get in on this tomorrow, Giving Tuesday. I'm challenging you.
All right, so as always, we thank each and every one of you out there in the community for listening and supporting KLEK 102.5 FM. We are your community radio station. We could not do what we do without you, so thank you again for supporting Community Conversations and KLEK as a whole. Don't forget to check us out tomorrow morning starting at 9 a.m. with Giving Tuesday. We hope that you stay tuned. We hope that you support in every way possible.
Don't forget tonight, get there early. Starts at 5:30. I'd get there around by 4:30 if I were you.
Me too.
This is KLEK 102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to Community Conversations on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program focusing on the people working to make the Jonesboro community a better place while offering viewpoints from all sides of the issues. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK